In this episode, we are at the Medina County Fair. Join us while we recreate a favorite fair treat with a twist. You won't believe how easy it is. To market we go. My name is Kristin Gambaccini, and this is Market Table. So we are here in the community building at the Medina County Fair, and it is a great day for the fair. The weather is beautiful. There's a lot of people here. It smells wonderful, all those fair foods mixed together. And speaking of fair food, today we are going to be recreating one of my family's favorite fair dishes, the funnel cake. I don't even know if you can get better than the funnel cake you have at the fair, but I made this recipe last night, and I have to tell you, this is pretty close. We're making it with a little bit of a twist, and it's actually a lot simpler than you think. Not as simple as just going and buying it at the fair, of course, but still simpler than you think to make at home. So we're starting with 2 cups of peanut oil, and I have it here in my cast iron grill over medium-high heat. And the reason we're using peanut oil is because peanut oil has a very high smoke range, meaning you can have peanut oil on your grill, on your stovetop, in your fryer for quite a while on high heat without having to worry about it smoking. The other great thing about peanut oil is that it doesn't absorb the flavors of the food that you're frying. So if you were making French fries or chicken or any other dish and you were frying it in the oil, vegetable oil, canola oil, those will absorb the flavors of whatever food you have in there. Peanut oil does not, so you can reuse it time and time again if you choose to without having to worry about that flavor transferring to your other dishes. So I have it on medium-high heat. It's ready to go. We are going to start our batter. I have 4 cups of bleached flour here. Now you can absolutely use unbleached flour. You can use whole wheat flour, but it will definitely mess with the taste of the final result of your funnel cake. So just keep that in mind. Typically here on Market Table, we tend to do the healthy range of food. We buy our food at the farmer's market, we take it straight into our kitchen, make a quick and easy meal that's pretty good for you. This meal is not healthy, so I just want to forewarn you that we are taking a nosedive into the unhealthy side of things for this dish. So we have our 4 cups of flour. The next step is going to be to add our sugar, and I'm adding 3 tablespoons of sugar into this mix, and I actually have 4 tablespoons in this cup. I'm going to save about a tablespoon for later to use at the very end right before we go to make our funnel cake. So the great thing about something like this and a dish like this is we're not sifting. We don't have to worry about making sure that our dry ingredients are sifted together. We don't even really have to worry about the constant mixing. I could put all of this together at once and then mix it, but I'm going to go a little bit slower just so it's easier for you guys to keep up. So I have 2 tablespoons of baking powder here and 1 teaspoon of salt. And then we are going to do 3 tablespoons of baking soda. So I'm going to add this in here. And then we have a cup of milk and an egg. But before we mix that in, we're actually going to take out 1 cup of this mix. And if this sounds like pancake batter to you, it's because that's what it is. We are basically making a very fancy pancake batter. So here's a tip. If you were to make this and you wanted to kind of skip a couple steps, you could absolutely use a boxed pancake batter and start with that, and then add in these next ingredients that we're adding before we start frying our funnel cake. So totally up to you, but it's definitely an easier step if you wanted to go that route. So I'm going to scoop out about a cup of this pancake batter into a bowl, and then I'm going to add my 1 cup of milk. The thicker the milk, the better. So if you have whole milk on hand, that's probably your best bet. But I like to use what I have, so we drink 1% at home, so that's what I have in here, and it works just the same, works just as fine. So we're gonna mix that up. I'm gonna add 1 egg to our mix. And these are fresh eggs. These are straight from our backyard chickens, but any kind of egg will do. It doesn't have to be a brown egg. And then a little bit of vanilla. And the reason I add vanilla, I even add vanilla when I'm making homemade pancakes, just because I feel like it just adds a little bit of sweetness to the dish, and it just makes it a little bit more flavorful. So I would say I probably put a tablespoon of vanilla in there. And then I'm going to add my secret ingredient. We talked about this in our last episode with Stumpwater Farms. I'm going to add some lemon juice, and I add lemon juice to my pancake mixes and my waffle mixes, and I'm probably going to put about a tablespoon in there, and that adds a little bit of a tart flavor, but not so much that you can taste it. It doesn't give it a lemon flavor, but it definitely enhances the flavor of the batter. So I went ahead and I put my lemon juice in there, and now I'm just going to mix it up. Doesn't have to be completely thin. It can be kind of chunky. It's not something that has to be totally perfect, because when we pour it into the oil, it's going to expand, and you won't even be able to tell whether or not your batter had small chunks of flour in it. So I think we're good there. The next step, now the reason this is called funnel cake is technically the next step would be to have a fancy funnel. You would hold it over your oil, pour your batter in, and kind of ring it around into your oil. I don't have a funnel. I didn't buy a funnel for this particular dish because honestly, you can just pour the batter in. It's maybe not going to give it quite as pretty of a result, but it's going to taste the same. So we're just going to get a measuring cup, dip it in here, and pour it over our oil. So we have our batter here. It's pretty much mixed up and ready to go. I'm going to show you guys a quick way to test and make sure your oil is ready. I know that we've all heard the trick of putting some water on your fingers and you drop it into the oil, and if it sizzles, it's ready. But sometimes that doesn't give you a very clear idea of whether or not your dish is actually going to bake or fry properly in that oil. So for this particular dish, the trick is to just take some of your batter and drop it into your oil. See how it's bubbling, it's boiling, it's fizzing, it's ready to go. We know that this oil's ready now, and we didn't have to waste an entire batter's worth of funnel cake to figure that out, which would be a tragedy. So I'm going to have my measuring cup here, and like I said, all I'm going to do is just kind of dip it into my batter. I'm going to come over into my oil, and we are just going to make it into a round-ish shape, very loosely consider this a round shape, but eventually as it fries, it kind of expands and it all connects. And that's what's cool about this dish, is that you can't really mess this up. So I'm going to let it sit here for a few minutes. You don't want it to sit too long because it can burn. But you also don't want to flip it too soon. So you will know when it's ready to flip when all of this can be picked up with your spatula. And you want to make sure that you have a spatula or a spoon that's big enough to get under whatever surface. So keep that in mind when you're making your funnel cake. Keep that in mind on the width, that you want to have a tool that's big enough to get in and flip it. Otherwise, it might not flip quite as easily. So we're almost there. I'm kind of feeling out the sides here. So we are going to flip this. We've done the one side, we're moving on to the next. I decided to do 2 tools. Got a little fancy, see if I could do it, maybe do a cleaner flip. It didn't splash quite as much as it did when I made this at home, which is good. If you could smell this, guys, I wish there was a way for you to smell how amazing this smells. It really is. It smells just like the fair. It smells just like the food trucks. It's really, it's really that good. My camera guy just told me it smells amazing. So we are gonna let this fry for just a few more minutes on this side. But I wanted to talk a little bit about cast iron while this is frying, because the reason we're using cast iron is because it is such a great tool when you're trying to fry your foods versus using your stainless steel pans or your coated pans. But there is a level of care to cast iron, which kind of scares people away. But I'm here to tell you it's actually not as hard to take care of it as you think. Cast iron, for some reason, there's this belief that you can't use soap on it, which is actually untrue. You can wash your cast iron pots, pans, frying pans in a little bit mildly soapy water with some warm water. The biggest thing you don't want to do is scrape it. You don't want to scour it. So you can wipe it clean, then you have to season it. Seasoning it is with shortening, with vegetable oil, and it's a matter of putting a coat of the oil on your clean pan. And then you would just I take paper towels if you have extra hand towels, and just place it inside of your pan to help hold that seasoning in. And really that's all it takes. Okay, so I just checked the bottom. It looks just as brown and crispy as the top. So I am going to lift this up and put it on my plate. I've got some paper plate or some paper towel lined up here on my plate to help absorb some of the extra oils. And really, we are going to set it here, let it sit for a couple seconds. At this point, you could move this onto a serving platter or a different plate. If you wanted to continue making your batter to make more funnel cakes, you could put this in the oven on a platter to keep it warm. I'm just going to show you what to do with this one here. The simplest way to serve it would be with just some powdered sugar, obviously, just like they do here at the fair. So you want to do it while it's warm because the heat from your funnel cake is actually going to absorb and kind of almost liquefy this powdered sugar, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? But I'm going to step it up a notch. So we have some powdered sugar on this. Now, when we were at home, I'm not going to lie, I did not use this fancy tool here, my little sifter, to put our powdered sugar. My kids literally picked up the powdered sugar with like a cup, like a measuring cup, and just poured it on top. It was chaos, but it was good. So I have some strawberry preserves here, and I'm going to add this on top with some fresh strawberry. And the reason I like doing it this way is because, as I mentioned before, this is actually a pancake batter. So this could very easily be kind of a special breakfast for someone. And not to mention the fact that it's strawberry preserves. I mean, that's just good on anything. So I'm going to kind of spread it here around the middle. You guys know me, if you've watched these shows before, I always keep all of my kids in mind, meaning some of them would want the strawberries, some of them wouldn't. So by me not spreading it all over the dish, the ones that don't want it can eat the outside, the ones that do want it can attack the inside. I'm going to add some fresh strawberries here on top, one, because they taste good, but also because it makes it pretty. And then to top it off, last top of the topping, I'm going to add a little bit more powdered sugar. Like I said, we went crazy with this at home, so nobody's going to be upset that I added a little bit more powdered sugar. And that, my friends, is a homemade funnel cake. I think we should pull somebody up here to try it. So let me find somebody. Hold on one second. So I found Allison. Allison is here at the fair, and she is going to try our funnel cake. But first, I have to ask you, did you have the funnel cake here at the fair?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so she knows what that tastes like, so that actually makes me a little bit more nervous because I thought she was going to say no. So she has had the actual funnel cake, and now she is going to have my funnel cake, so I guess we will see what she thinks. All right, grab a fork or a spoon or whatever. I will hold it. I'm nervous, guys. I picked the one person in this room that actually ate the funnel cake here first. She's going for everything, a little bit of everything.
That actually beats the fair funnel cake.
It beats the fair funnel cake. Is there an award for that? I gotta ask my camera guy, because I'm pretty sure there should be an award for that. So, you heard it here first. This beats the fair funnel cake. But also, guys, really it is easy. And just keep in mind, if you're going to be making this, remember how we started and we worked in that small batch and did a little bit at a time? That's the best way to go. So when you would finish with this batch and continue to make, then you would come back, add another cup of your batter, another cup of your milk, another egg, some of that vanilla, some of that lemon juice, mix that up, and then make it again. But other than that, it's a simple dish, really easy to make, and I am so glad to meet you, Allison.
It was nice to meet you too, and that was delicious. So.
Thank you. And I'll see you at the market. Head to KristinGambacciniBlog.com for this recipe and others seen on Market Table.